It's 8 p.m. in Banjul, and this is GRTS News, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. Our top stories this hour. Wrapping up a busy week of engagements, the Independent Electoral Commission concludes nomination for candidates contesting the April 9 National Assembly elections across the Gambia. Empowering women through agriculture, we examine new horticultural techniques being embraced by rural women farmers to boost production and output via organic farming. In sports, top athletes representing schools drawn from all regions compete in the National Athletics Championship, engage in different sporting events at the Independence Stadium. On the international scene, relief organizations intensifies efforts to distribute medical equipment and supplies to Ukraine as millions flee heavy bombardment and rocket fire across Ukrainian cities. And the United Nations adopts a historic resolution backed by 175 countries to end plastic pollution by the end of 2024. Well, those are your headlines and much more coming ahead with me, Rohibite. Do stay. It's great to have you here. We begin with the ongoing legislative elections and nominations happening across the country after weeks of engagement by parties and independents contesting the April 9 National Assembly elections. IEC officials have wrapped up nominations across the country. On Sunday, several aspirants visited the Kanifing IEC Regional Bureau to receive acceptance letters endorsing their candidature bids. Here's an excerpt. Let's take a listen.
Nominated or accepted 35. APRC 2, CA 2, GDC 3, NPP 5, PDIS 4, UDP 7, and 12 independent candidates, making it 35. It had been very hectic, by God's grace, with the security, presence of the security, things went on fine, and supporters, candidates and their supporters here behaved very, very well. So tomorrow, 14th, then 15th and 16th, we will be doing campaign reconciliation of the campaign itinerary. As you can see, we have 7 constituencies in KMC, so all of the constituencies will be contested because we have candidates vying. At least more than one candidate vying. I think the highest we have should be 7. 7 candidates in one constituency. Then 6. The list is 2. Yeah. So we'll be doing the campaign reconciliation. Then on the 17th, we begin the campaign. We hope we will we will have a very peaceful campaign. Yes, because. All the candidates, signed, the election campaign code and ethics, and of course in that you have all the do's and all the don'ts, in campaign, and of course we will also be monitoring the campaign, the office here. Locally, our assistant returning officers will start work from tomorrow. After the presidential election, the whole commission went to Monsakongo. We had a review of the process. We found that the process we used during the presidential, some people, that was why certain people went, to court. But this time we're running away from that because people are saying that we didn't give them chance. We didn't give them chance to correct. So because 47.3 says that even if you reject somebody, you should give the person chance to do correction. Okay, so that is why you see the nomination, it was up to the 11th, and then these 2 days is for people to come for correction. Corrections mainly is centered on, some they are documents, and then some the support. This last guy who came, if he hadn't come up to 4, then we would have rejected him because we have We have already given him chance. We nominated him. Then instead of rejecting him because he didn't bring enough support, now we give him chance to do correction.
Nomination of candidates for the forthcoming National Assembly elections has ended at the Regional Electoral Office in Birkama, West Coast Region. In a media briefing at the end of the nomination period, IEC officials disclosed that a total of 66 candidates have been nominated across the 12 constituencies. Alajimbai was at the Regional IEC Bureau.
The Regional Electoral Officer in Birkama, West Coast Region has described the entire nomination at the region as smooth and fair. Farbajani made the remarks at the end of the nomination period on Sunday. He disclosed that a total of 66 candidates across the 12 constituencies in the region have filed in nomination papers to contest the April 9th National Assembly elections, with Fonyi Jarol topping the candidate chart.
The entire nomination process for West Coast was conducted in a very conducive environment. Yeah, though we have some small obstacles here and there, but notwithstanding, it ends peacefully. And after the nominations, we had about 66 candidates that have been nominated, but few are yet still having some pending issues, which the verification officers are still working on to finalize their program. So far, we've nominated about 66 as our total. I think the highest could be Fonyi Jarol, because for them they have about 7 independent candidates. Yeah, so Fonyi Jarol I think is the highest from our records here.
Mr. Jani also reiterated that candidates are required to report to the IEC regional office on Monday to reconcile their campaign itineraries to prevent any conflict in the vast region with the largest voter population. He also called on candidates and supporters to promote peace before, during, and after election.
Tomorrow is the 14th when we start the reconciliation. That reconciliation will end on the 16th. 14, 15, 16 is the reconciliation of the campaign itineraries. All the candidates were invited, and during the nomination period, they were informed that they should be coming on the 14th to reconcile their itinerary. Why we are doing that is because we want each and every candidate to have a peaceful campaign period. Because the moment they don't have any issue, class on the way and the like, dates has to be different, times has to be different to make sure each and every individual is at a place where the other candidate will not be. So at the end of the day, if there are any class, we just refer ourselves to those itinerary, reconcile itinerary, that is the composite one, to find out who is at fault. So that will end on the 16th. Then on the 17th, campaign will kick off, and it will end on the 7th of April.
As IEC officials spent the last day of nomination on correction and verification of documents, they assert a free, fair, and transparent election. Alajimbai, GRTS News.
Let's head off to the Lower River region, where election officials concluded nominations on Saturday. Several candidates were at the regional election house to complete their applications and receive acceptance letters as the IEC prepares to launch the legislative elections campaign ahead of next month's polls. Our regional correspondent Usman Balde is covering nominations there.
Nomination in the Lower River region. So 6 aspiring independent candidates filing their candidacy at the Regional Independent Electoral Commission in Mansakonko. 5 out of the 6 independent candidates submitted their valuable documents to the regional IEC officer, except Pate Balde, candidate for Jara East constituency. But he was given a second chance to go and assemble all his nomination documents and submit them to the IEC officer in Mansakonko.
Candidate from Jara is by Pate Balde. He's just short with 19, and we just gave him a call. He can come over to collect the extra forms, and he can go to the field and get up the 19 correct nominees' names and bring it over for the acceptance to be given to him. But that's about the rest of all his documents, which are all mandatory by law, are all been sorted up, and they are all okay.
Does it mean that at the moment he's not recognized to contest the election?
Yes, at the moment, as we are speaking now. But if he can complete these things within tomorrow, then his acceptance will be done. He can be able to contest because he's still within the framework of the nomination period.
The first 3 candidates to reach at the IEC regional office in LRR for nomination was Yunusa N. Ba for Kiang Central, Musa Wali for Jara West and Samba Ba for Jara Central. Speaking to GRTs after submitting their nomination papers, both outlined various reasons why they are contesting under a ticket of independent.
I am the choice of the people. I am potentials. I can do it. You know, I know the problem of the people of my constituency. And then how the selection was done, it did not satisfy me. It did not satisfy my people. This was why I was called by my people and then asked me to stand for an independent candidate. This is what made me to stand as an independent candidate.
The political atmosphere of our country has been polarized. It has been divided within tribal lines and political affiliations. And it has been marred also with political blackmailing and gymnastics.
It's not my wish, it's the wish of the people. Because I realize that at our constituency, I am the choice of the people, and it's the people that asked me to stand as an independent candidate. Irrespective of all the other various political parties that stand there, I am the choice of the constituency, I'm the choice of the people.
After tendering their various documents to the Lower River Region IC Regional Officer, Abdullah Bari for Kiang East and Lamin Kante for Kiang West told GRTs that they are anticipating a positive response.
The reason why I went back to be an independent candidate, though Kabada for us we have no oppose. Even in Kiang East generally, normally we don't have oppose. Due to the concept of conflict zone, that's why we the Kabada people, we went for an independent candidate.
I want to be an independent candidate so that I can fight for my people in Kiang West. That's why I go for independent candidate.
Despite his pending result of qualification to run for the National Assembly election, the former journalist explained that if he is voted into office, he will solve the problems of Jara East.
My people demanded let me apply under the National People's Party. So when I applied, we went up to the level of selections. So I received a call, or I called to the main office as the secretary, the administrative secretary, who told me clearly that even if I am nominated or selected on the NPP ticket, he will not endorse my candidature.
According to the IC officials in the Lower River region, the nomination for the National Assembly election in April was conducted in a peaceful and professional manner, and as well as being secured by the regional security officers. Usman Balde, GRT.
14 aspirants had successfully received their acceptance letters from the Regional Independent Electoral Office in Banjul, wrapping up nominations of candidates contesting for the legislative elections. Janke Toure was there today, where she had an interview with the region's returning officer pertaining to the success of this year's nomination process, and she prepared this report.
The nominations for the 2022 parliamentary election has ended in Banjul, after what the Independent Electoral Commission (IEC) described as a thorough and careful review of all the nomination papers submitted by the various aspirants. In an interview with the returning officer of the region, Suleiman Juf, he portrayed this year's nomination process as fruitful, citing some of the electoral body's success stories.
It has been very, very successful in Banjul without hitches. Absolutely without hitches. The team in Banjul assigned to conduct this nomination, we have coordinated this. We had planned it very well to make sure that we wouldn't have any problems, and definitely we conducted this nomination without hitches.
So far, all the candidates of Banjul's 3 constituencies, namely Banjul North, Banjul South and Banjul Central, made it through the final stage of receiving their acceptance letters. Returning Officer Ju further expanded on this.
In total, as we speak now, those candidates that brought forth their nomination papers were 14. and then all of them successfully went through nomination, and we have given them acceptance to their nomination. Amongst the 14 candidates, 2 women were successfully nominated, and they were the only women that brought forth their nomination papers.
As Juf further highlights, candidates are now left with the important stage of the reconciliation of campaign itinerary so as to prevent clashes.
We're talking of what the IEC has to do here to make sure that elections are conducted in a very peaceful manner. The peaceful manner in which we conduct this election has a lot to do with also campaign, routes in and out, so that no candidate, no political party meets with another candidate or with another political party whilst they embark on their campaign routes, or trails.
Furthermore, the IEC official also urged candidates to uphold the principles of unity and stay away from all the unlawful activities during and after the election.
I want Banjul to uphold that flag of the smiling coast of Africa and lift it higher than it had ever rose. I want to tell people of Banjul, elections will come and go. The people of Banjul will continue to remain as one family.
Janke Ture, GRTS News.
Now, empowering women through agriculture for better productivity, we now examine how horticultural women in the rural Gambia are embracing new techniques of farming to boost their production and productivity through organic ways of farming. Recently, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Agency, FAO, visited its project sites as part of its climate change project aiming at reducing the impact of climate change on agriculture. Baba Silla picks up the rest of that story.
For agriculture is gaining momentum in rural Gambia thanks to the intervention of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, whose climate change program is moving to reduce the impact of changing weather conditions on farming output and food production. FAO is implementing the Adapting Agriculture to Climate Change project to support the establishment of more resilient approaches to mitigate climate change effects on agriculture. Several beneficiaries are now benefiting from the project, which has boosted productivity and earnings since the intervention of the project. The women of Kwanguba village in the Upper River region have embraced a new method of farming thanks to extension workers who are being engaged to train them on new farming techniques.
It is sponsored by FAO, we all knew. Kwangu here, these women are very hardworking. And before the coming of this garden here, these women are really suffered because there are about 352 women in this garden. But the garden they have before the coming of the FAO, it is very much small. It's even less than half of a hectare.
Since the construction of this 5-hectare garden by the UN Food Agency and several training sessions, these women are now scoring high productivity rates. More than 300 women work in this garden every day with support from experts who train them on production methods.
Here, I will tell you one secret about here. We don't apply these NPKs and urea here. Simply reason is we want women to focus on this organic manure. Simply reason is organic manure is very much important, is good. Later on we will go, the farmer field school and their students will go and demonstrate the making of this organic manure.
Beneficiaries at several sites visited by the delegation expressed joy over the initiative, but also raised concerns such as inaccessibility to markets and lack of proper storage facility among a host of concerns.
Efo biranata akamuntala ko yeduno cheka yabo lar mo kumoto ya landi efe wala jo fengo ate kuonku babulu aba alador ndebulu.
Despite production and market challenges, women of Kuankuba are being trained on ways to preserve some of their produce, such as pepper and tomatoes, which is being processed into jam in order to generate revenue. Last week, officials conducted an assessment tour of project site in almost 10 communities from the North Bank to the Upper River regions in order to gauge the progress made so far since the implementation of the project. Baba Sila, GRTS.
This is GRTS News. We take our first break and sports is next.
Banjul Africell Marathon, Sunday, 27th of March, 2022. 4, 5, 10, 21, and 42-kilometer run. Start and arrival at Africell on Kariba Avenue. Register at any Africell outlet. For more details, run Banjul.
Modu came in to buy some bathroom floor tile, but once he laid eyes on our basins, he fell in love with a stunning basin and with a breathtaking faucet. With a brand new mirror too, at a bargaining price.
So, I got a bathtub too.
Oh yes, he picked up a bathtub too.
It's Batty Days time at Batty Mats. Enjoy exceptional discounts up to 70% on all our product families. From March 5th to 19th, you're going to splurge. Batty Mats, everything for construction, from foundation to finishing.
Welcome back. The National School Athletics Championship has kicked off at the Independence Stadium, where schools from across the country converge to compete in different track and field events. Day one saw intriguing races in the 100 and 200 meters. Among other middle distance events, hundreds of students turn up at the stadium to cheer behind their respective schools. Famra Baji has more on that.
This championship comes with a lot of excitement, massive crowds and unstopping ambience, as hundreds of jubilant supporters turn up to cheer behind their respective schools. On the tracks, it was a battle between different junior and senior schools, competing in different events. Field events such as long jump and shot put were also in contention on the sidelines. Day one witnessed some intriguing and keenly contested races in the 100 and 200 meters events. Some athletes showed immense energy and brilliance in outstanding performances, paying off with victory on the tracks after training hard for the day.
No, it's not a tough race for me because I know I can beat them. I go with confidence. I'm 100% sure I can defeat them easily, and I don't feel tired that much.
You have 2 more days to go. Tomorrow you will be having some events, probably in the final day. How will you be approaching those events?
I will prepare like today, how I do it. And tomorrow, inshallah, I will take first off for all my events.
I train for it many times. I'm training for only 1,005. I'm having only 1,005. I win it on the hit and win it.
So you mean you are better than the rest of the athletes?
Yes, I'm better than them, of course, because I win it.
This year's championship is being competed without defending champions Botrop and some strong competitors like Scan Aid, New Covenant and Newsrod, all of whom are suspended for rule violations. This means a shift in power, as the title could sway in another direction, with Latukunda Sabiji Upper Basic School and Bakote Senior Secondary School putting up dominant displays on day one of the athletics championship. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
You're watching GRT's News live from Banjul. A quick look at our top stories once again. Wrapping up a busy week of engagements, the Independent Electoral Commission has concluded nominations for candidates contesting the April 9th National Assembly elections across the Gambia. Empowering women through agriculture, GRT has examined new horticultural techniques being embraced by rural women farmers to boost production and output via organic farming. In sports, top athletes representing schools drawn from all regions are competing in the National Athletics Championship, engaging different sporting events at the Independence Stadium. On the international scene, relief organizations are working to distribute medical equipment and supplies to Ukraine as millions flee heavy bombardment and rocket fire across Ukrainian cities. And the United Nations has adopted a historic resolution backed by 175 countries to end plastic pollution by the end of 2024. And that's it for this hour. We'll be back at 2200 hours. Until then, thanks for the pleasure of your company and stay tuned to our programs.